Hello Year 9. Now that we've read two complete Gothic horror stories together, The Red Room and The Telltale Heart, it's time for us to create our own. Now, before you do that, you will notice that I've put a link in today's instruction box to a video clip. And that clip is from the Simpsons TV show, which uses the premise and indeed most of the plot of the last story that we read together, The Telltale Heart. It's excellent. Now, watch that and make sure you enjoy it. But more importantly, I want you to note how the plots, themes and ideas of Gothic horror, indeed a story that is 150 years old, can be used, updated and modernised to suit a modern audience. Those themes are universal: guilt, terror, fear. Now, when you've watched that, I want you to spend the rest of this lesson concocting me the plot to a Gothic horror story of your own, using the planning document shared with you today. I want you to cast your minds back a few weeks first though, and remember how we read a passage from Dracula the novel, in which the narrator described his arrival at Dracula's castle. I want you to think carefully about the importance of setting in constructing a Gothic horror atmosphere. Settings such as ruins, castles, sinister mansions, like in The Red Room, are obviously really important in creating that dark and brooding sense for the reader. Now, there is space on the planning document shared with you for you to tell me about your ideas for the setting of your story. But as when modernising the genre, you don't necessarily have to limit yourself to creepy mansions or castles. Gothic horror could in fact take place anywhere: an abandoned fairground, a derelict hospital. The key is in how you describe the location. You could try to transform a normal place, not normally associated with horror, into a dark and foreboding location. Now, I also want you to think about the importance of character. Remember how in The Red Room we saw a normal, assertive young man come into contact with a group of sinister and deformed servants. Now, they were clearly created by the writer to give a sense of tension. Something not quite right, something unsettling. This ratcheted up the tension by attempting to frighten the narrator and thus us, the reader, by using direct speech. This night, of all nights, they kept saying before he entered the Red Room. Think also about how the Telltale Heart used character really differently. Unlike the scientific young man of the Red Room, who represents us, someone normal outside the Gothic horror world, entering a strange and sinister place, putting us in his shoes as he experiences horror, the narrator of the Telltale Heart puts us deep into the mind of a psychopathic killer. You could use either type of narrator, or indeed use a third-person narration, telling the story from an outside perspective, as if you are seeing everything. Now, there is a space on the planning document to tell me about the characters that you will include in your Gothic horror story. Finally, we come to plot. Think about the two stories that we have read. The Red Room is more conventional. Young man visits creepy mansion, experiences horror, survives, and then reflects on his experience. We've all seen 100 films and read 100 stories like that. You could break that story down into clear stages. 1. Introduction. We learn the man is a man of science and is suspicious of ghosts and the supernatural, and his motive is to disprove their existence. 2. Problem. He meets the creepy servants. He travels to the Red Room. 3. The story develops. He examines the room. Strange things begin to happen. 4. Climax. The candles are all extinguished. The man panics and blacks out. And 5. Resolution. The thing is resolved. The man wakes up the morning after and tells us that the room is haunted by fear itself. Consider how the plot of the Telltale Heart also fits into that narrative structure. The climax is the escalating sound of the heartbeat, and the resolution comes at the end of the story, the moment at which he confesses to the murder. There is space on the planning document for you to write your own plot in stages for your own Gothic horror story. So, I really want you to take your time with this task. Think carefully. Complete the planning document and really consider how you could tell a story that chills the bones and ices the heart like the best Gothic horror tales do.